Hi, Sabrina.
Hi.
Hi. So you're here for the Arts Commission, correct?
Yes, I am the staff person to the Arts Commission through the Office of Business Development and Tourism. So they usually have a pretty minor request every year. Most of this is really due to administration of the Arts Commission meetings. There is a line item for Telesco, which is under other professional services, as well as a social media marketing individual that has been part-time working for the Arts Commission since its inception. So that's covered in there. And then there's also some business expenses that are in there when we start to hold art galleries again within City Hall, and it really just pays for whether that be hanging systems and things like that. So overall, just very basic general business of the Arts Commission that their budget covers.
Good. So you're operating, the other operating supplies is and the other contractual service, that's Telesco. Is that what you were referring to with the other?
Yep. The other contractual services, there's Telesco, and then the operating supplies, that would be something like if they needed an adhesive to hang a piece of art in City Hall, that type of stuff.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I don't know if Mr. Dakowitz or Mr. Ellis could give us an idea of where we are relative to the open items. Maybe if we know the amount of open items. I know we haven't gone through ECD yet. But an idea of the open items and where we are relative to the cap, I think that'll be helpful as we work through the night.
As well as where we are with respect to the 0.5% from
Right.
all the departments.
We were going to prepare that for tomorrow night.
Okay.
We have a list. One list would be all the open items, which are normally to be funded, and they add to the expenditures. And then we were going to have a list of the 0.5% contributions by departments.
Okay.
That would be funded. Tom sent out a memo today to all the departments because we did not get 0.5% from all of the departments. So we're hoping to pull that together and then tomorrow in the morning or by midday, circulate that to everyone on the committee so that that would be our starting point for discussions for tomorrow.
Great. It's helpful. So
I
Sabrina.
think Jim Travers and Bill Ireland are called Harry Rilling. Now Jim Travers changed his. So
It's because Henry and I sent out the links that came directly to us that appear to be the only ones that work. So if I think you can click in the upper right and rename yourself if you wish.
Whoever is the host of the meeting can go to the attendee list and promote everybody to panelists, because I believe everybody is all staff. Steve Kleppin's in there. David Westmoreland is for the Historical Commission.
I'll do that right now.
Thanks.
All right, Sabrina, are there any questions of Sabrina with respect to the Arts Commission budget?
Ed, can we just start by just telling us what her request was and what, I mean, where are you looking on page 2 under P and Z?
I'm looking on page 1 of 12. The request was 16.5. The recommended.
I'm sorry, I printed earlier. I'm sorry. I got it.
16.5, and that's.
So they're looking to 4%. Okay. Well, 14%. Okay.
All right. Any questions beyond that?
No, sir.
And is this, I guess we're not going to get a 0.5% from the Art Commission.
I think what I was told is that they're looking at a 0.5% for all of ECD. Is that correct, Sabrina?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
All across all of the departments, I believe
Right.
we actually have a 0.6% decrease. Our 0.5% across all the departments was around $23,000, and we actually decreased by about $40,000 across all of our departments.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Great, wonderful, thank you.
Yep,
All right, thank you, Sabrina. I think we're good with the Arts Commission.
no problem.
Chief of ECD.
So, excuse me, Jess is on maternity leave, so I'm kind of pinch hitting with me and my dog.
Okay. So basically, there appears to be no difference between what was requested and what's been recommended. It's represents a 2.3% increase from 2022. Are there any questions concerning that?
Just if there's any reduction in the overall in any particular area or?
Yeah, so as Sabrina just mentioned, everybody put in what their nominal reductions, but building and code enforcement had a significant reduction in their allotted part-time funds from the prior year. So with that, as when we look at our group as a whole, which is kind of lines up with the realignment and the repositioning of the city departments, that put us with a reduction that was greater than the 0.5% that was requested.
So what is that reduction there?
That was 40. Go on, I'm sorry, Mr.
Oh, no, it was from the part-time from the prior year.
Steve, maybe we should go through all the departments under economic and community development. And then when we finish, you can go through all those departments and tell us what line items are going to add up to that 0.5%.
Sure, however you guys want to proceed is fine with me.
Okay, so shall we move to code enforcement? I believe that's a 1.162 million request and recommended, representing actually a decrease in 2022 of minus 4.6%. Are there any questions concerning that?
No, that's good.
Okay. Planning and zoning, there's a slight increase of $30,000, a 2.7% increase, and no difference between what was requested and what was recommended. Are there any questions about that? Okay. Conservation Commission. There is a no daylight between what was requested and what's been recommended. Does represent a 17.3% increase over 2022. And the bulk of that increase, maybe we can just get some information on that, what the bulk of that increase is.
Was wages and salary, I think.
Yeah,
It's like the first item.
And
Okay.
is that a transfer of a person?
That is a transfer. For some reason, the principal planner position was placed under the conservation budget. And then one of the land use technicians, which had previously been under the conservation budget, was moved to planning and zoning.
Gotcha.
And not to complicate things at all, but P&Z and conservation, we had talked about merging the budgets for this coming budget season, but as it got close, it was too complicated. So it's probably something next year. It should just be a single budget because we kind of share everything together. So it just makes sense.
Okay. Are there any questions concerning that?
so is there a corresponding reduction in the P and Z to offset the 41,000 increase in Conservation Commission? Isn't that what we just said, that 41,000 increase, or some of it anyway, is a result of a transfer in?
Yeah, if I'm reading this correctly, there is a reduction in the, I don't know if it's apples to apples, but there is a reduction in the salaries, but that number I'm assuming also takes into effect with the step increases as well.
But if I read this right, there's only a $3,700 decrease in salary in P and Z. So I'm just trying to track your numbers. I'm not trying to challenge you, just track the numbers.
Right.
There is a much larger salary decrease in code enforcement. Are we looking at the right place for transfer in, transfer out?
No, that's a separate department, so that these two, the monies from those two wouldn't have mixed.
Were
Maybe you can
there,
get,
were there more increases in the Conservation Commission in addition to transfer in?
No, so there hasn't been any total staff increases at all. There's been after the buyouts from a year or so ago, we had several, I'd say newer staff members. So there's probably significant number of step increases that jump into that equation.
I'm just
Yeah.
guess, I'm just a little confused. Unless what you're saying to me is it in somehow or other in the mix that it comes out that the Conservation Commission is getting a bigger chunk than what was supposed to be coming out of P and Z. I'm just trying to,
is it possible there was a transfer of that position that you mentioned, but there were other positions that were vacant and were filled, so it doesn't show the one-to-one correlation?
It's
Yeah,
possible.
that's
We
what
did
I'm
have a
asking.
vacancy for,
I'm sorry, Mr. Kleppen?
oh, that's great. Go ahead.
No, that was my question. Is that possible?
Yeah, we did have a vacancy that was filled for a while. I don't recall how far back. It's been at least 6 months. So when that new hire came on, that was probably the first time we've been at full staff in well over a year, I would say. But as Alexis pointed out at the beginning, that the principal planner has always been under P and Z. And then there was a land use technician that was under conservation, but the two got mixed when the rosters went through. So at the time, it was just easier to leave them alone. If you look at, I think in total between the two, the salaries outside of the, agreed upon union contract increases for step increases, there shouldn't really be any differences because there's no new positions added.
All right. Okay.
so we're gonna, let me just understand, is the total ECD what we have on page 4 of just under or just over 5,367,000?
The entire
Requested.
ECD is at page 4, ends at page 4.
Okay. Okay, thanks. I'm still confused about, and I guess we'd have to get into the weeds, which is not what we wanted to try to do today, but I'll take your word for the fact that it's in the mix someplace.
Okay. Any other questions?
So
Oh, no, okay, fair enough. So, transportation,
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Jim Travers, how are you?
good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Good.
So being my first BET budget meeting, how would you like me to start? I'm sorry.
Well, let me start by saying that you requested 1.596, recommended is 1.513, which represents a $100,000 increase over 2022, which is a 7.2% increase. I see there are a number of items that were decreased from the prior year. For other professional services, there was a $63,000 reduction, a couple of other reductions totaling 5,000 or so. And then there's an increase for wages and salary temporary, $16,000. And that really appears to be the most significant increase. Is there anything about that or anything else that you'd like for us to know?
So no, I think we took a hard look at the budget to come up with what is the right number. Really taking in line what did we believe that we could get accomplished. What did we think we needed to maintain. The other professional services have really offered us an opportunity to take a harder look at the site plan reviews. Those site plan reviews over the last year have created just shy of $700,000 of benefits to the public right away through our site plan reviews. And we often will use those other professional services to come up with what those justifications are. And the increase in salary is twofold here. So one is taking into what you see in the budget is taking into consideration moving a transportation planner out of the planning department budget, moving it into TMP. But if you noticed in the requested budget, there were three additional items, three additional associates that we did there. Two of them would be a creation of a sign crew, which we will do, gladly move that one off and move it into what will put a better justification forward to you in the next fiscal year. But I would make a request to return the junior engineer into the budget. If we look at what we have right now, we have about $17 million worth of grants that we have secured. Most recently, you may have seen the news where last year we wrote a CMAQ grant and were awarded $3.4 million for signal modifications. We were just awarded on Friday through Congressman Himes $1.4 million for sidewalks for West Rocks. We have a number of other grants that are out, but we have not, as a department as a whole, the department has not been able to move forward with the grants that they have secured for lack of resources. So we have some grants that are dated back to 2015 that we just haven't been able to move on. Since my time here in the last year, Garrett Bilella is my assistant director, has joined me and this tonight's call as well, that we can talk about any of the projects in detail if you would like. But we're taking a really hard look at the grants that we have secured in the past, making sure that those are the investments that we want to as a city and that we want to move forward with in line. But we have, last year we're awarded as a city $3 million for MLK improvements to the corridor, which would require a number of investments that would fall underneath TMP for execution. And without additional support, writing a grant, as laborious as it is, it's the easy work, right? Reconciling that grant and doing the construction management of it becomes a challenge, and I think we've proven that challenge. But we're holding $17 million worth of investments in the city for lack of resources in order to be able to accomplish those. And quite honestly, in my conversations with WestCog, the Council of Governments, being told to me is Norwalk has been underfunded in their grants, and simply because it's those requests and our ability to get it done. So an investment into a junior engineer will not only allow us to start whittling away at the existing grants that we've already been awarded before they get taken away, but also allow us the opportunity to look at more grants. And we know that more funding is available coming out of the budget that was passed from the federal government just last Thursday. So I know that we're supposed to be sitting here talking about a reduction. I think, when I had a conversation with Jessica earlier, and to Steve's point, the reductions were not as taken department to department, but rather the entire economic development division for that reduction of 0.8. I don't take it lightly, looking for additional resources, but I think the resources here would be beneficial and certainly pay for themselves.
How long will it, can we hold on to a grant? And it probably depends on the grant before it's, if it's not used before it's taken away.
So it's largely dependent on the funder. The grants that we've had right now, I've maintained a number of conversations. Having just joined the city a year ago, I have a little bit of reprieve from Condot as they recognize I need a little bit to go. We are looking at each of them individually, making some scope changes. We are currently doing that same with the Wall Street right now. We have a grant for East Wall Street that we're holding on. But I think we do have local road accident reduction program grants. That program is may be phased out from DOT. So if they do phase it out and we don't have it, we do have potential to lose it. There isn't a hard cut date, which I think is you're looking for. But
well, let me answer this question: Can any of these grants or all of the grants, a portion of the grants, be used to fund, albeit perhaps temporarily until the financial picture changes? On our side, fund that position that you're referring to?
So in future grants, I may be able to do, you looking for construction management in those, but I can't rewrite a grant that has been already awarded. I can change the scope slightly of the work, but I can't add additional items. So I can't add personnel to any of those existing grants.
And what is the person that you're referring to, an engineer? What type of engineer?
Junior engineer. So it's a first level engineer.
And what would that person's responsibilities do, and how would that help moving this grant money, or using the grant money?
So they would do construction oversight. They would do project management of those grants. So really being able to, so when you have a grant, there's a considerable amount of steps that have to be taken in order to ensure that we maintain the grant. But also on a monthly basis, we have to do reconciliation for those grants, really making sure that we provide Condot with the necessary information. Our failure to provide them with the necessary information will result in our inability to get reimbursed for that. So it can have potential impacts, but it's really about making sure that the grant is executed as is. That's really looking at oversight to construction. So they would be going out onto the construction field, making sure that the work is done, signing off on the additional tasks that are being done, really running project management, weekly project management recap with the contractor and staff, and then also doing the paperwork for monthly reconciliation back to the funder.
That's for my math, that's about $83,000 all in for a junior engineer.
For their base salary, yes.
Not the benefits or anything like that.
Not benefits, no.
Because that's the difference I see between what was requested and what was, at least in wages and salaries, what was requested and what was recommended. Unless there's another place where that monies would come from.
So I could.
Ed, you're looking at the
Does that
first
take
line,
into
right, Ed?
account the transportation planner salary that's being transitioned over from planning and zoning to TMP?
I see. Yeah, there's a $63,000 reduction of other professional services, actually.
No, this would have been a salary line item.
Okay.
Or because of
I'm sorry, let me just, I think we're getting a little confused here. You're telling me that 1.169, which results in an increase of 148,000, is partially due to somebody coming in from a planner from P&Z?
So the transportation planner was under PNZ.
Okay,
Before the transportation planner, it is moving to the transportation department.
Is that
then
an
I should see a
offsite?
corresponding reduction in P and Z
Right.
once again. So now I've got two people coming out of P and Z, one going into Conservation Commission. And yet I still see only a decrease of about $3,700 in P and Z. So,
Well, it's possible the P and Z budget didn't have that position taken out because it wasn't set in stone when the budget was put together.
but then I should see a bigger reduction year over year, right?
Right,
Mhm.
if the P and Z budget, if the P and Z budget has that position taken out, then the P and Z budget's is lower by the amount of the transportation salary that goes into. the
But it
T&Z
wouldn't have been
budget.
taken out of the 22 budget, would it?
No, it didn't get taken out because it hasn't happened.
But that's what I'm saying is that we're only showing between the 22 and the 23 budget in P and Z, you're showing a reduction of $4,000. Now, so somebody went into Conservation Commission, somebody else goes into TMP, and that's two heads. It certainly wasn't $3,700 or $4,000. The numbers are just not adding up here.
Yeah.
Or the explanation you're giving me is maybe not quite what you really mean.
Yeah, I agree with Jim, this is Troy. This is the second time we're hearing this. We need help from Tom or Henry on these offsets. I mean, you can't just say it's transferred from another department unless we see the offset. I don't see it. I see, like Jim said, I'm seeing you're up 148,000 on your wages, and you're telling us. I'm not sure what you're telling us. Are you telling us this is an added person for the grants, or it's a transfer from another department? This is a little confusing to me.
How many salaries would that line represent? How many people would that line represent?
The head count.
Yeah. Because there are a number of wages. There's a wage overtime, and then there's a wage salary premium, but that's zero. So,
And then you have the temporary, the 16,000, the temporary line.
The temporary is an intern. So it will be 9 plus an intern.
okay.
Or moving with the transportation planner included, it'd be 10 plus the intern. But not the junior engineer.
And you're saying that the junior engineer would be at least $100,000?
I think the difference is $83,000 between the requested and the recommended.
recommended. Yeah, that's the difference. But you said that that's just base salary, not benefits as well.
Correct.
So you would still not have enough to pay that person were there to be an increase of $83,000.
If the benefits are not included, yeah, I think the only item included there was the base salary.
Okay. How close are you to being able to secure additional grants that might either partially or entirely pay for that engineer at least for a year or two or something until we can figure out whether or not we can absorb that on our, on the city side?
So the only other grant that's looking, that's looking positively upon funding is a LOTSIP grant, looking for phase 2. But that one does not allow staff to be included in the budget.
Jim, quickly, when you get these grants and you say you can't execute them, is it a skill set issue or is it a volume issue?
It's a volume, it's a manpower issue.
So, I mean, it would make sense if we, if we have the right manpower, you could unlock, it sounds like, how much in grants that we have sitting around?
We have $17 million in grants.
And what you're saying is that one position, a junior engineer, would unlock would make it possible for some of these grants to be used? It seems like you know, a relatively minor position to have that, to have that impact.
Or can you bring in a temporary person? I mean, to pay somebody 100,000 to get 17 million, I mean, that's a no-brainer in my opinion.
And would be in mind too. And I think, the issue is, to talk about a temporary position, we're not going to get $17 million worth of grants reconciled in 1 year from one individual. It's just not physically possible, right? So this is, this would be a multi-year investment, but we're also saying that in that multi-year investment, this is really beginning, of a process of really looking for external services to our external sources. There's no indication that the grants are going away. There's only an indication that there's becoming further, money that's going to be available. From my history, my most recent history, as I headed the bureau in Stamford, right, in the 4 years that I was under a contract with them, I wrote $55 million worth of grant requests and received $47 million worth of funding. It's laborious and it's hard work, right? But you also have to, when you deliver results, you have the ability to get more grants, right? I think we're stalled with really being able to get grants because we're sitting with grants that haven't moved, right? And right now we're really looking at this federal administration really looking to try to get work completed, right? Shovel-ready projects, which is really, was the conversation we had with Congressman Hines' office about sidewalks on West Rocks Avenue, right? And really, they want to see the projects and they want to see the projects done. And when they're not done, they do get stalled, and you just don't get the next round of grants available. But we certainly have a number.
May I ask you this question? Are there junior engineers or engineers in other departments that can be shared? Like let's say in Public Works or in, in building or something. I don't know. Is that something that can be done to bridge the gap a little bit?
So I really think that, when we look at 17 million, this is more than a full-time position. So when we talk about sharing, we're really talking about the fact that, one person wouldn't even, look, I didn't approach a budget to you with adding 3 people. I thought that was unrealistic, right? I wanted to get something to prove to you that we could actually get the work done and that you could see a value in it. We do meet with DPW on a regular basis. We have, 2 meetings a week with them. And I can tell you that they're equally resource challenged in order to get these jobs done. Currently right now with a very small department, we are, we have a $3 million grant that's underway for signal modernization for what we're calling phase 3. We also have, another grant for, improvements and, issues related to the Webster lot that we're looking to correct. Besides that, we also have, city funded projects where we are doing our Safe Routes to School and currently, going out to bid for the work this summer, which will be, over a mile of sidewalks on Highlands, right? So we're trying to balance, the commitment that we've made from a city, from a capital funding standpoint, to also what we have, grant funded for, a variety of different sources. That grant fund too, we are also going out to, we're making some modifications to a grant that was awarded to us in 2016. That's going to be improvements to Wall Street. And, we are doing a lot of outreach to the community about those changes to that grant, but we've secured that grant and we'll be back out to bid this year. So that will be in, this fall, we'll be in construction with yet, another one of those. So, on a sharing, I understand, and I don't want to be like, negative in this, but I just don't see as ability to share based on the volume of work that and the commitment needed to make them happen.
Well, this is Troy again. Listen, I mean, I know, I recognize this is your first, you're getting your first year here, and I appreciate it, and I know you're trying to figure it out. But if you're 9 people and the intern can't do this work to unlock the 17 million, I think you guys have to sit down and somebody has to do a cost benefit analysis, because this is one line item that I think that we need to increase in order to unlock. I mean, I don't, it seems like, I don't know why
It's especially problematic because I imagine that the cost of these projects 5 years ago is not the cost
exactly.
now.
Yes.
So you're actually losing funding, if you will, without it being taken away.
Right.
We in some instances aren't able to get the magnitude of the project completed based on the rise of cost of materials. Yes.
How many grants have we lost this past year? Because
We haven't lost any. We haven't lost
Okay.
any.
We haven't
So-
lost any.
No. So this
And how
last
many
year,
how many dollars did we have last year?
it's still the same dollars, right? So I think what I was trying to say is, the cost of materials go up. So when we had anticipated, that we, when we applied for a grant and that grant was $2 million and we were going to get 12 widgets, right? We might only be getting 10 widgets now, right? So we scale back the level of the project to meet the new requirements of the funding available funding. If that clears it up, if not, I can give you different examples.
No, that makes sense. All right, well, is the mayor still on?
The mayor's on,
Hey, Mr. Mayor, you've been very silent. So,
just listening.
so I'm just wondering, I'm not sure what the consensus is, but should this, might this be an open item? Is a fairly significant open item if we decided to make it that. But I'm just want what the city's thinking is, or what your thinking is on that.
But, it makes a lot of sense. I know Jim and Garrett have been aggressive in trying to right some of the wrongs that we weren't able to take care of in the past. So the only thing I caution is we have to be very careful about the open items. We do have some money to play with if people come in at 0.5% or more below their requested budget. So I think we can leave it as an open item and discuss it.
And could I add to that too, Ed, is that
Yeah.
I would like to get an explanation of these transfers between departments that to some
Yes.
extent reconcile these increases that we're looking at. Because I just have a very queasy feeling in my stomach about that.
I second that.
And rather than go through them now, as I think Henry suggested, perhaps I think you indicated at the start that you have about 40,000 in cuts, which represents that more than the 0.5% that was requested. If you can just give those to Henry at the end, or not at the end, but tomorrow, so that when we get together and meet to discuss the open items, we can have that information, or he can have that information to plug into the numbers.
Sure, I can email Henry tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Well, my understanding from Jessica's email was that the code enforcement department had in total a $56,000 decrease built into the recommendation. But my understanding of what the mayor's directive was is not to point to something in the recommendations. It's to say, based on what you've come in with, based on what the council set a cap on, we're looking for that additional 40,000. We've had many departments that had cuts. Mickey and the police came in pretty flat with no increases. Obviously, just to fund the increases or staff increases annually, they had to make other cuts. So the fact that that came in at 56,000 versus the beginning of the process I don't think satisfies the mayor's direction on, mayor, maybe I'm wrong and I misinterpreted.
Well, as long as the total amount for the economic and community development, including TMP and business and tourism, as long as the amount totals 0.5% or greater, that the reduction is there, I'm fine with that. I just want to make sure that they understand that, everybody understands that.
But would this be a reduction over 2022 or a reduction over what they was originally recommended?
What they originally were recommended, yes.
It should be pointed out too that they're, and I can't speak for all the different groups, but I know at least on our end, there's additional responsibilities that we've been tasked to do that have come down from council with different committees that have been formed, and somebody has to staff those. And not everybody that staffs those is in the same union as like myself. I show up to a meeting, it's the same pay, whether I stay 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. But other folks that staff these, due to the way the contracts are structured, they have to go to the meetings and attend. And, there's the overtime requirements and it's additional hours that we hadn't anticipated 6 months to a year ago. But, that's fine. The work is all good and important, but we do have to, account for those hours.
Well, we also have to take into consideration that creating extra committees adds an extra dimension of cost to us. And we have to look at that very closely. We just can't say, okay, let's create a committee for this. Let's create a committee for that, another committee for this, and expect that staff is going to be there the entire time. There's just not the funding for it, and they have to understand that.
Yeah. All right, well, so we'll leave that as an open item, that junior engineer position. For now, I think I'm not sure where we are with the 0.5%, if that's been satisfied or not, but I'll let you guys work that out, I guess. Shall we move to business development and tourism, or is everyone set to move on? Or are we?
I've got a question on business development and tourism.
Mhm.
Is the area of hold on, it was not wages and salaries, it was professional services, 114% increase.
Sure. So we had a partial contract in there from the previous year, as we had started the contract in December. So we only paid this current fiscal year $70,000 for that contract, which is partially what that contract was, but the full year is actually consuming a capital budget item and moving that over to an operating budget because we have an outstanding contract for 5 years going forward.
And what is the contract for?
It's the Visit Norwalk contract for the marketing services. So they're handling all of Visit Norwalk, all of the economic and community development website building that we're doing. And they're also going to be consuming some of the Arts Commission social media as well. So you'll see, if you were to compare my operating budget and the capital budget, you'll see a complete removal of that line item from the capital budget as it's moved over to the operating budget.
All right, it makes sense. Okay. Thank you.
Yep. And then I can also speak to the other increase in salary. That position is a permit coordinator. A portion of the ARP funding that the city received will be to create an online permitting and licensing system. That permit coordinator will not only coordinate that transition, but will also be a customer service facing individual that will help individual businesses as well as residents for residential permits and walk them through the process of what they need and what forms they need to fill out and all of that stuff, while also assisting us fully online, all of our permitting and licensing in the city.
Sabrina, I have just a quick question. You said that that was taken out of the capital budget and put it into the operating budget. Is that a long-term contract?
Yeah, we have a 5-year option on that contract. So we're already 2 years in on that. So we'll have another 3 years. So this current year and then 2 more years following that before we'll either go back out to RFP or do a sole source procurement for the same.
And it's 150 a year?
Yep, $100,000 for the Visit Norwalk contract, which is all of our tourism activities, and another $50,000, which covers the economic and community development departments as a whole. So it's kind of like our business arm, like our attraction website. So it covers all of that and specific marketing to businesses and drawing them to the city rather than just promoting to visitors.
Right. So Henry, we don't capitalize those long-term contracts?
I don't recall the shift. I don't understand why that was shifted. And I don't understand. It's a significant expense. I don't know. It's an annual expense. I don't understand how you enter into a contract for an annual amount that's greater than what your budget was. Because you started in the middle of the year.
I was requested to move this from capital to operating. That's the only reason it's in here.
So I'm glad you said that, Henry, because I'm confused too.
Well, it was, there was 150,000 requested, 150 recommended, representing that 80,000, I guess. And then there was another.
I should mention that the contract is not, it's for a total of 5 years, but it's based on approval on a year-to-year basis. Does that help? So if we were to not get funding 1 year, we have the option to discontinue the contract.
So it's based on, it's conditioned
yearly
upon
review.
funding for it. Okay.
Yep, it's a yearly review. So every single year I go back to the Economic and Community Development Committee to forward to the council to get council approval to extend that contract the additional year.
Okay.
So it's an
Minnesota.
annual contract.
Yeah, it's an annual contract, but we have 5-year options. We have five.
So it's different.
5
That's different than a 5-year contract.
Yes.
5-year contract ties us in for 5 years.
No,
right? An option to renew it in subsequent years is an annual contract.
correct. We have an annual contract with 5 1-year extensions, and we've already utilized 2 of those.
And it had been capitalized at one time?
Yep, previous to this current budget, previous to this year and this current budget request, the first year of the contract, it was a capital expense.
And who instructed you to move it?
Where did you get the guidance to move it to operating? Who'd you get that from?
That came down from chief discussions. I was told by our chief to move it into operating.
So it was funded under the capital budget the first time around?
The first year it was funded by capital budget. This year, you'll see half is that $70,000 because the contract started later in. So last year is actually kind of when it moved.
Okay.
So funding,
I
so
just can't.
Henry, you went out and bonded this item? I mean, what?
I just can't understand a 1-year contract with 4-year renewals was put into a capital budget. That doesn't make sense to me. So 1 year.
And if it was put in the capital budget,
annual
wouldn't it,
operating expense. And
wouldn't it have been bonded, Henry?
we don't, bonding is based on cash flow. Okay, not necessarily by the approval of the capital projects. But if it was approved, then it's part of what we borrowed. But as you know, we have $220 million of projects that were not bonded. So the ones that are being spent currently are the ones that we fund year by year. So if this was a capital project, then quarterly, they're supposed to project when they're going to spend the money. And that's how we base our budgeting. I don't understand why we would borrow 15-year money to finance an annual advertising or marketing expense.
Henry, I think that's why this item was moved to operating. I think that was the guidance you had given Jessica to move it over.
So it's correct now. Is that right, Henry?
Yeah, so the capital account is completely closed. We're now have been using operating for these past few months, and we will only be using operating moving forward.
Okay, so it was placed in the wrong place last year and now it's in the right place.
Correct.
Okay, so we can move on.
Okay. All right. So basically that was, it was recommended, that as well as the other position. So Are there any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thanks.
Historical Commission?
Don't know if David Westmoreland on. Oh, there he is.
John,
Okay.
it was.
So basically, there's no real
Right.
increase, over 2022. It's, a 0.2% increase, $600 increase. Are there any questions concerning that?
No.
Okay,
Nope.
there being no questions. Thank you, Mr. Westmoreland.
Hey, thank you. Have a good
That was
night.
easy, David.
Excellent.
Administration.
That's the police department.
Oh, yes, police department. Yes, thank you. That's right. Okay, well, so we're done with economic development. We have one open item, and I guess there's an open issue to what the 0.5% decrease looks like. So I guess we'll get answers to that for those tomorrow.
And also clarity on the puts and takes on
Yeah, that's right.
positions moving.
Right. So if we can get that for tomorrow, that'd be great. Police department, administration, there's a $13,000 increase over, let's just say overall, there's just a 2.2% increase, I believe, in the police department's budget from 2022, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 2.2% over 2022, which was 27 million, and that 2.2% represents an increase of $605,000 over 2022. Are there any questions concerning the police budget?
Is there, yeah, I was just on some of the increases on wages. Does any of that represent, is that all just contract, or is any of that represent headcount increases?
The majority of it is raises, contractual increases. There is one refunding of a position that was cut last year, which is the maintenance position. And that was refunded in this budget.
Okay. So that one is just to replace somebody that was cut last year.
Correct.
Okay, good. That was a question I did have. But overall, headcount's pretty much the same as year over year?
Yes, aside from that one position.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay,
Well, we also had other cuts of civilian personnel last year, which were not replaced.
all right.
Okay, I'm looking at the email that we got from Tom regarding the 0.5%. I'm very sensitive to the police budget. But what we have from Tom is that fire operations, public works, recs, and park, finance department, and planning and zoning have all come in with a 0.5%. Having said that, I'm very, we're all appreciative that the police budget has come in at only 2.2% over. I'm not sure, how the mayor feels about the 0.5% request for public safety, for a public safety department, but that I don't see that the police department has come in with a recommended amount. And I don't know that this is something that we want to ask of the police department. That's above our pay grade.
They came in with a very lean budget. I can't see any place where they have the ability to cut. So I just believe they're fine. So I'm good with that.
Okay.
And just in their defense, the way we had phrased this, we were asking people to be prepared at their review meetings with the BET with the 0.5%. So I didn't mean to imply that they were delinquent.
No, I didn't, I certainly didn't take it that way, but, okay, are there any questions?
Nope.
No,
Okay, well, concludes this evening. So there's one open item
Thank you.
from this evening, I guess.
Thank you.
And we'll meet again tomorrow. What time? 6, same bat time, same bat channel.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay. All right.
thank you all. Have a nice evening.
Yeah, thank you.
everybody.